Know your relationship worth. Now, why do I say that? Or, Philippe, why would you say know my relationship worth? You don't know what's going on, yada yada. And that right there is my exactly response why I say know your relationship worth. And in this day and age in an economy, at least in my point of view, coffee, some milk, sugar. Anyways, at least in my personal point of view, being in a relationship, it's a lot of learning. It's a lot of, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. You sit there and you may think it's okay, or you sit there and you think it's a problem or an issue. And that is exactly why I say know your value. Know your value in that relationship. Make that relationship be worth it. Because at the end of the day, you're just wasting that person's time and yours. And unless you like doing that shit for the fun in the game, there's something wrong with you, buddy. But, that's just my personal point of view. But beyond that, you really have to see your worth. And it's more like of a wake-up call, because, for example, my girlfriend is injured. I'm the one that's trying to needs money, always working and everything. And just because she lives together and yada yada. No, just because we live together and I gotta take care of her. No, I'm just doing part in general, If she's down, I'm up to pick her up, you know what I mean? If I'm down, she's up to pick me up, So it's one hand washes another, It's when I say know your value, it's like saying, oh, that person right there knows a lot more in math, but I know more in speaking English. Maybe I can help that person out in speaking a different language because I know a lot more English than the other person, and they can teach me a little bit of math. That's what I mean. And you want to make it feel good about that worth. I always try to make it feel good and positive, and not a lot of people know that communication skills with their partners, and it's something that whatever deep drama or problems or whatever issues you have, you sit there and you really have to wake yourself. I'm this years old, economy shit. I may feel behind, I may not, I may be behind, or I may not, or I'm 20 years old. I'm in a whole relationship. My boyfriend or my girlfriend punches window. Hold up, because I'm gonna put this in the whole perspective to make it gender fluid. Because honestly, this can happen to anybody, anyone, anything, anywhere, anytime. It doesn't matter if it's your boyfriend. Doesn't matter if it's your girlfriend. Eventually, they all do the same narcissistic, crazy thing. Some may do horrendous things than others. Trust me. Others may just go to the religious side, So it really depends. And the reason I'm saying this is because you really need to wake yourself sometimes. Because if you're going under an abuse, especially an abuse in the relationship, you really have to sit there and whoa, I'm yada yada years old. My partner punches, throws shit, yell at me all the time. I can't even have a talk with my partner about my day. If you can't sit and talk to your partner about your day and they can't do the same thing back to you, there's something wrong, and I think you need to talk. And when I say talk, I don't mean we're gonna resolve this now. No. I mean, you guys have to come to agreement to whatever you guys going to discuss is going to be between you guys, and whatever the discussion will be, it will either be for the greater good, because if you guys want to continue, you will go for the greater good, and whatever happens after this discussion, it's going to be watered down. We will be better. We will always aim to be better. Not a lot of people know how to do that. A lot of people just know to go back into the same issues and, no, I'm better, no, I'm smarter, no, I'm doing this correctly. So it really comes down to communicating. So whatever you guys discuss, it's between you guys. It's your relationship. You know, a lot of these things can and will be affected by social media, which I seen that a lot. And a lot of people don't know their worth because here we are where don't get me wrong. I can go extra when it comes to pleasing and gifting my girlfriend. But sometimes, man, giving her sometimes paying for her buffet in a restaurant is like the best thing I could do instead of just getting her some flowers or chocolate or it doesn't take much. Basically what I'm trying to say is you don't have to go big to get big. You don't have to risk a how do I say this? I don't want to say in a weird way, especially because I don't speak English as my first language. So what I'm basically trying to say, it's like you don't want to risk high reward. No, you don't want to risk it all for high reward where if you communicate, you can go straight to the reward or be mindful and creative. A lot of women love that, and especially if your man or your woman is not gifting you something, at least a card or talk it out, but like it really depends on your relationship. It depends generally. Like I whenever it's seasonal gifts or holidays, I tend to always give my girlfriend a gift, and even if I can't, I find a way to it, or I make a card, or I just, hey, time's difficult right now, I'm gonna get you some seafood boil bag later on, maybe something extra if you want, but right now times are hard, so I really just want to thank you for being here with me, and so on, and yada yada, but not a lot of people know how to do that. Not a lot of people will even take that step, and that is why I say you need to have a wake-up call and know your relationship worth, because not a lot of people do, and I feel like that's holding back a lot of people. And if you are going through something, there are people who is willing to shout out for you. There are people who is willing to speak up for you, and with overall all of that, my other concern, it was just more of like not a lot of people know their worth as well. A lot of people are insecure, and that falls a lot with being in a relationship, because you have to be secure about yourself when it comes to being in a relationship, because you can't just sit here on your 20s 30s worry about what your grown-ass man or woman is dressing, doing while you're away. You need to have some confidence. We're adults. We're grown adults. If for example, I look like crap right now, but for example, I receive or talk to most females, let's say, right? Let's say, it's just a theory. Let's say I talk to most females during my business hours, where my girlfriend could be talking more to grown men who is twice my age, who's probably, their wallet is probably the size of freaking my head, you know what I mean? So it really depends, and some things you have to let go. Some things you have to sit there like, damn, I was really bitching over that, so it really depends, and you have to talk. None of this can go forward if you don't communicate. A lot of people don't understand. My phone is about to die. Anyways, let me wrap this up. A lot of people don't understand that if you communicate, you can resolve a lot of things. There is no soulmate. There is no the one. No, you choose to be the one. You build yourself to be the one. You train. It's just like fucking Mortal Kombat, Liu Kang, Liu Kang is the chosen one. But why? That motherfucker was training. They chose him for destiny, but anybody could be the chosen one if you really see that the storyline is crap. But sorry about that. Here we are. And as I was going to say before, we had that little incident. You choose to be that person. You choose to be the one. You taking the responsibility to be the one, Sure, it's a lot of pressure on you. Nobody knows what they're doing, but that's the fun of it. That's the point of life, apparently. And It's just something that I decided in my head, because no matter what you go through, there's always going to be a point in life where you will go to point A up and then just go straight down like a roller coaster. So it really depends. And when I say you choose to be the person, I mean once if you're really serious about your relationship, like for example mine, we've been together for it's going to be 4 years actually. Let me stop. But 4 years this year. It's been 3 years so far. Right after high school and everything. Well, we got together during high school. We graduated, and here we are. And we always have a reminder talk once in a while. We always talk like how is my listening skills? Am I improving? Am I disapproving? Be honest with me. Nothing is better if a family member or a person that you love is being truthful and honest with you, because you don't want to hear the brutal truth from a stranger. Which crazy as that sounds, a lot of people don't speak up about the truth. A lot of people just sit there and lie about it. Sure, there are moments that you have to lie. Like, I mean, like let's say your girlfriend or your man. No. Let me say, for example, your girlfriend or your woman. I don't know why I keep saying girlfriend or woman, but let's say your woman is over there, pregnant, 7 months already pregnant. She looked like a beat up car who just ran over by a truck. So, and she asks you, babe, do I look fine? Am I still in my prime? Now, you can choose and sit there and say, no, you look ugly. And you decide, you take accountability of that action, buddy. Or you could sit there and do like a pleasing lie, a truthful moment to keep going, you look alright, to be honest. Like, if it wasn't a pregnancy, I'm sure you would be looking even better. But you look exactly the same, just with a bulge on your stomach. A lot of people don't have that thing, like communicate, talk, think, it's complicated. It's hard. Nobody said it's gonna be easy, but that's what I was trying to say. Therefore, it's just my opinion. Don't take what I say too seriously. I'm just a nobody who's trying to make it and survive out here speaking up my mind. But I will say that this is some advice that people may or may not take, or people may or may not learn from it. And that's totally fine. Everybody has their own pace, everybody has their own opinions, but that was just my opinion on my overtake when it comes to knowing your value worth in a relationship, in a family ship, or whatever ship you got going on, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I don't care. And sorry about that. My phone was receiving some type of information I needed to see. But, I don't care what type of ship you got. All I care is about my DC Universe Online, my game on Resident Evil 4, and making money, working, providing, and succeeding and surviving. So, therefore, I don't really mind or care what you do, but please be mindful of what you do and can do. Not a lot of people do or know all of this. But with that, that's my concern. I'm gonna change, get ready for my day, and maybe post later on if I can or not. We'll see. Enjoy, y'all.